No one expected this. Not critics, not the industry, not even their own country. Because when South Korea quietly asked the world a serious question, who truly represents us, the answer didn't come from noise. It came from what stayed. And in the end, only two names remained. Not groups, not moments, not trends, just two soloists. Jungkook and Lisa. For years, influence was measured by volume. Headlines, rankings, numbers, louder meant bigger, faster meant better. But real influence works differently. It doesn't shout. It settles. It changes how people feel before they even understand why. Jungkook didn't arrive as a symbol. He arrived as a boy. Young, quiet, unfinished. People saw potential, not certainty, promise, not power. He trained while others slept, questioned himself more than anyone ever did, carried expectations he never asked for, and still doubts followed him. Too emotional, too soft, too dependent on a group. Could he stand alone? Could he carry something bigger than himself? The pressure wasn't dramatic, it was constant. Every performance became a test. Every release became a verdict. Success never erased the doubt. It only raised the bar higher. When he smiled, people questioned sincerity. When he struggled, people questioned strength. And through it all, he kept choosing discipline over defense, growth over noise. Lisa's path was different, but not lighter. She crossed borders alone, a foreigner in a room full of judgment. She learned quickly that effort would never be enough on its own. She had to be undeniable. Some questioned her place. Some reduced her value. Some never looked past the surface. Her talent was never the issue. Belonging was. She trained under pressure most people never see, proving herself again and again, not just as an artist, but as someone worthy of standing there. Each success came with new criticism, each achievement with new doubt. And still, she kept moving forward. Not louder, just stronger. Time passed, not gently, not quietly. The world watched closely. Every move they made was examined, every mistake amplified, every silence misunderstood. They weren't allowed to be human because symbols aren't supposed to struggle. They were expected to represent perfection while carrying real fear, real exhaustion, and real loneliness. There were moments the cameras didn't show, moments of hesitation, moments of isolation, moments when continuing felt heavier than stopping. But stopping was never an option, because both of them understood something early. Influence isn't built in moments of applause, it's built in moments of endurance. Then something began to change. Slowly, almost unnoticed. People didn't just watch them anymore. They felt them. Not because they tried to explain themselves, but because they stopped pretending to be anything else. Jungkook sang, and people heard sincerity before technique. They heard vulnerability before perfection. Korea felt closer, not because it was promoted, but because it was felt. Lisa moved, and confidence replaced distance. Borders didn't disappear. They simply stopped mattering. This wasn't overnight. It wasn't viral. It was gradual. The kind of change that doesn't trend but stays. The kind of influence that doesn't spike but spreads. Still, many believed it wouldn't last. Fame fades, they said. Attention moves on. New faces replace old ones. History repeats itself, until the question was asked again. This time, not by fans, not by media, but by the country itself. Who truly shapes how the world sees Korea? The answers returned, clear, unfiltered, honest. Many names appeared, then slowly disappeared. Big names, powerful names, until the focus narrowed, until only solo public figures remained. And suddenly the list became very small. No other soloist, just Jungkook and Lisa. This wasn't about numbers. It wasn't about dominance. It was about trust, about emotional connection, about who made people feel closer to Korea without explaining it, about who carried the country quietly without ever claiming to. Jungkook represented sincerity, a Korea that feels deeply, works quietly, and learns constantly. A Korea that doesn't need to announce its strength. He didn't perform an image, he lived it, through effort, through humility, through consistency. Lisa represented confidence. A Korea open to the world, unafraid of evolution. A Korea that stands tall without losing its roots. She didn't redefine Korea, she expanded it, made room for the world inside it. Two journeys, different struggles, the same weight. Both carried doubt without complaint. Both turned pressure into discipline. Both stood alone without ever losing where they came from, not because they were chosen early, but because they endured longer. There was no stage for this moment, no speech, no applause, just a line in a survey, and yet it said everything, because influence isn't announced, it's recognized, seen in changed perceptions, in softened distance, in curiosity replacing unfamiliarity. And somehow, through years of quiet effort, they did what campaigns cannot. They made Korea feel human, not perfect, not unreachable, human. No other soloist. Just Jungkook, just Lisa. Not because they were louder, but because they endured. Because they stayed when doubt was everywhere. And in that quiet truth, the world didn't just see Korea. It felt it. What made this moment different wasn't the title. It was the silence around it. No celebrations. No campaigns. No manufactured pride. Just recognition that arrived after years of being questioned. Because both of them knew what it meant to be underestimated. Jungkook knew the weight of expectations that start too early. When talent appears before confidence. When growth happens under a microscope. He wasn't allowed to fail publicly. Yet he failed privately, many times. Re-recording, relearning, rebuilding. Each step forward came with a reminder that he was still being watched. Not just as an artist, but as a representative. That kind of pressure doesn't disappear. It shapes you. And instead of resisting it, he absorbed it. Turned it into discipline. Into consistency. Into quiet reliability. Over time, people stopped asking if he could stand alone. They started asking how he stayed grounded while doing it. Lisa understood another kind of pressure. The kind that comes from never being fully accepted. From always being other. From having to earn space instead of being given it. She learned early that confidence would be questioned, no matter how earned it was. So she built something stronger than approval. Control. Focus. Presence. She didn't argue with doubt. She outworked it. Every performance became a statement without words. Every appearance a reminder that belonging is something you create, not something you wait for. And slowly, perception began to shift. Not because critics changed their minds, but because audiences felt something they couldn't explain. They didn't see idols anymore. They saw individuals. People who carried their culture without forcing it. Who represented Korea without reducing it to a stereotype. That's when influence became something deeper. Not admiration. Identification. Viewers didn't just enjoy the music. They felt closer to the country behind it. Closer to the language. Closer to the emotion. Closer to the humanity. This is the kind of influence surveys struggle to measure. But people feel instantly. And when the country finally asked the world what it saw, the answer reflected years of quiet work. Not campaigns. Not trends. Consistency. Endurance. Presence. Jungkook didn't need to explain sincerity. He embodied it. Lisa didn't need to explain confidence. She radiated it. Together, without standing side by side. They told the same story. That Korea doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. That identity doesn't need permission. That influence doesn't need to be claimed. It only needs to be felt.